Hello friends, on the night of 3rd December 1984, around midnight at Bhopal Junction railway station, the station superintendent H.S. Bhurve and deputy station superintendent Gulam Dastagir were on duty. Around 1 o'clock, the Gorakhpur Bombay Express arrived at the station, prompting Dastagir to leave his cabin. Suddenly, he felt a burning sensation in his eyes and a sore throat. Worried, he looked for Bhurve to inform him but could not find him. Some moments later, he finds Bhurve laying on the ground. When Dastagir checked him, he realized that Bhurve had passed away. Dastagir immediately understood what had happened. Just a kilometer away from Bhopal Junction, a major accident had occurred at the Union Carbide factory, releasing 50,000 pounds of poisonous gas, including MIC, hydrogen cyanide and phosgene. The toxic gas was spreading rapidly throughout the city. As the most senior person present, Dastagir made a crucial decision. He ordered the Gorakhpur Bombay train to leave before its scheduled departure. Even it was supposed to stay at the station for 20 more minutes. Since the passenger had their windows closed, he wanted to ensure their safety. Breaking protocol, he instructed the station staff to clear the way for an early departure and took full responsibility for this decision. Meanwhile, the crowd at the station kept growing. The gas leak happened at night when most people were asleep. Many, struggling to breathe, tried to escape in their cars, while those without vehicles rushed to the station, unsure of what to do. More and more people arrived at Bhopal Junction, coughing, crying and vomiting. Dastagir ran from one platform to another, trying to help in any way he could. He made an SOS call to nearby stations, and soon 4 ambulances, paramedics and railway doctors reached the station to assist. However, escaping the poisonous gas was difficult. While some fled their homes to reach the stations, others rushed to hospitals. Naturally, anyone experiencing burning eyes and difficulty breathing would seek medical help. But the problem was that neither the railway doctors nor hospital staff understood the situation. These symptoms were unfamiliar to them, making it difficult to diagnose the illness or its cause. About 3 kilometers from the Union Carbide factory was Bhopal's Hamidia Hospital, which had around 1200 beds. At 1:15 am, the first patient arrived complaining of eye irritation. Within the next 5 minutes, over 1,000 people had gathered at the hospital. Some doctors tried to get information from Union Carbide, but the company provided no useful details. The company's medical officer, L.D. Loya, falsely assured the doctors that the gas was not poisonous and suggested using wet bandages on the eyes. At the same time, Superintendent of Police Swaraj Puri visited the control room and saw his staff coughing and rubbing their eyes helplessly. Around 1:25 am, he called the carbide factory. The first 2 times he was told everything was fine. However, on the third call, the response changed. The factory staff claimed they didn't know what had happened. By 2:10 am, the hospital had admitted around 4,000 patients and chaos unfolded at Bhopal Junction. Dastagir had ensured that the Gorakhpur Bombay Express left the station, but helping people was becoming harder. He later learned that his senior H.S. Bhurve had died while directing another train to leave Bhopal. His senior had ordered the train not to stop at the platform but to keep moving. Gulam Dastagir, his wife and their 4 children lived in old Bhopal, just 3 kilometers from the Union Carbide factory. But instead of checking on his family, Dastagir stayed at the station, focused on helping others. Trains arriving at the station were told not to stop and keep moving. Around 3 am, Dastagir's colleague Manzoor Ahmad Khan arrived at the station with his entire family. Hoping to leave Bhopal, He saw Dastagir running tirelessly from platform to platform, selflessly helping people without thinking about his own safety or his family. Doctors and paramedics at stations and hospitals worked non-stop to save lives. However, they didn't know how to treat the actual cause of the symptoms. But most doctors used eye drop to ease burning, steroids to reduce inflammation, antibiotics to prevent infection, and antacid for stomach problem. The real solution depended on identifying the gas. Was it MIC, phosgene, or hydrogen cyanide? Initially, doctors suspected phosgene poisoning because a similar incident had occurred at the same Union Carbide factory 3 years earlier. In December 1981, a phosgene leak had killed a worker named Ashraf Muhammad Khan. Union Carbide downplayed the severity of the situation, insisting that the gas was MIC and advising simple remedies like wet bandages for eye irritation. MIC vaporizes at 38 degrees Celsius, a high temperature, whereas phosgene vaporizes at 8 degrees Celsius. Given the cool December weather in Bhopal, doctors assumed phosgene was the culprit. No one knew that at the time of the accident, the factory's temperature was around 400 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, in the US, Carbide's medical director Vipin Avasia informed Bhopal authorities that if cyanide poisoning was suspected, sodium thiosulfate should be used as an antidote. Previous experiments had shown that MIC breaks down into hydrogen cyanide during combustion, and sodium thiosulfate effectively counteracts cyanide poisoning. However, 10 days later, during a press conference in Bhopal, Avasia retracted his statement, denying cyanide poisoning and dismissing the antidote. The company claimed that MIC was not cyanide and that it naturally degraded in water. But by then, thousands of patients were in hospitals waiting for treatment. On 8 December, German toxicologist Max Daunerer arrived in Bhopal with 50,000 doses of sodium thiosulfate. Many patients recovered after receiving it, but one patient died, sparking rumors that a German doctor had killed him. As a result, the doctor and his antidotes were sent back. Senior professor at Gandhi Medical College rejected sodium thiosulfate, and on 13 December, Madhya Pradesh Health Service Director Dr. M.N. Nagu issued a circular stating that sodium thiosulfate should not be given unless cyanide poisoning was confirmed. Despite this, some doctors remained convinced that the patients were suffering from cyanide poisoning. First, because sodium thiosulfate had helped some patients to recover, and second, because Dr. Hirish Chandra, director of Bhopal's Medical Legal Institute, found evidence of cyanide poisoning in autopsies. He insisted that sodium thiosulfate should be used. In February, some weeks later, in the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR finally instructed doctors to use it. The big question is, why was there so much confusion? Why did the company create so much uncertainty about MIC and cyanide? The direct answer is that Union Carbide was facing massive compensation claims. They wanted to downplay the effect of MIC to save money. Government authorities also got caught in this confusion, leading to the tragic loss of many lives that could have been saved with timely treatment. Ghulam Dastagir, the man we spoke about at the beginning, survived the tragedy. However, he spent most of the last 19 years of his life in hospitals before passing away in 2003. What makes the Bhopal gas tragedy even more heartbreaking is that several warnings were issued before the disaster. Many people had raised concerns about the factory's lack of safety measures, but neither the company nor the authorities takes action. In 1981, after Ashraf Khan's death, Union Carbide sent 3 US experts to assess the plant's safety in May 1982. Their report identified over 60 hazards, including the fact that emergency evacuation plans were not shared with local residents. It also noted that MIC tanks were vulnerable to contamination and that the tank pressure gauge was faulty. Journalist Rajkumar Keswani published articles warning about the dangers. Titles like "Save this city," "Bhopal is sitting on a volcano," and "You all perish if you don't take this seriously" were ignored. His last article, published on 16 June 1984 in Jansatta, predicted a disaster. This highlights the importance of independent media. Keswani simply did his job honestly, making him an unsung hero. The Bhopal gas tragedy remains one of the world's worst industrial disasters, a stark reminder of the consequences of negligence and corporate irresponsibility. Even today, survivors continue to suffer from long-term health effects, and the fight for justice is ongoing. This tragedy highlights the importance of strict safety regulations, corporate accountability, and the role of independent media in exposing the truth. Thanks for watching.